Good morning and welcome to Trading with Larry Benedict, joined by Eric Shamala on a bull market, bear market, bull market, depends on what market you're looking at, market. And here we are. Yesterday was a full out waste of time. Market traded down, came back at the end of the day, and you walk in and the Q is up 3% from yesterday's low. Nasdaq futures up almost 3% from yesterday's low. Before we got on the podcast, which makes no sense to me, you said we were oversold, except all we did was go from 720 to 700, and now we went from 700 back to 720. Are we overbought? I'd love to know, dude. This is a computer video game. All the people watching here should just know you're in a video game. When they turn the program, you just have to be lucky enough to know they're going to turn the program. If they don't turn the program, they don't turn the program. And the moves are very large inside of one day. That's it. Very large. So today the Nasdaq, I woke up, Nasdaq was up 150 futures, traded up like 90. Now it's up 250. I mean, so, and nothing changed. Oh, wait, bond yields actually went higher. Okay. And all of the macro picture is minimally the same as yesterday.
I would say it's actually worse than yesterday, the macro picture. Which I could get into. But I think this is more of a technical bounce. And I think based on the conversations we had. Hold up. Look at this chart. You called this yesterday, okay, Larry? This is the Nasdaq S&P spread. We got oversold on this spread 2 days ago. Yesterday, in the wake of the flare-up in Iran, oil up, this Nasdaq spread was going up all day, and you called it. You said, "Look, we're going to
flare up in Iran." Dude, there's no flare up anywhere. Come on, Donald T sent 3 bombs out yesterday and basically warned them again, and now we're just sitting waiting for them to do something else. And the greatest thing about yesterday for me was they were laying over footage of Trump talking about the Iranians 2 weeks ago, how they're really smart people and it's a new regime and all of this. And then they laid over yesterday calling them, cuckoo and scum and this and that. So we're in a really good place there. I feel really confident about our situation over there. Okay. That doesn't play into the market on a daily. I don't know who's buying the tape here. I don't understand it. You could have bought it yesterday and made 2%. And if you annualize 2%, you're talking about an 800% return. So whoever is buying here is fools. Okay. Fools, fools, fools. And, we talk about, one thing that I think is important for everyone to know. This is a one, they have Nvidia under the hood now, quietly moving up $14 in the last 3 days, but no one really even notices it because no one's playing it like the way they're playing Micron. Micron is a degenerate casino gambling tool. The night before, Nvidia traded 880 overnight. It's trading over 1,000 today.
Here's Micron, by the way.
Whatever, dude. And the chart doesn't even look good. It looks bad, but somehow it's good for today's
Whatever
trade.
way it looks, they see the bounce off the 50-day and they got excited. Nvidia, Seagate is another one. Seagate got crushed, the hardware trade, and they're just trying to rotate into this stuff, into this stuff.
Eric, we're higher in Micron right now than we've been in 2 weeks or a week and a half. We're back to over 1,000. Okay, the company is moving 10% every 2 days. Today it could be up. Right now it's up 5-6%. It could be down on the day. Nobody knows what could happen, and you won't even know why. They'll come up with a fake article out of wherever, and Nvidia rallied because they're selling H200 chips into China, maybe from some source. I don't know who the source is, but some source. And then the stock rallies $13, which is 7%. So I will just state this. There is the most illiquidity that I've ever seen in the market. And it's a full out video game. So what the video game does later, me and you don't know. And it's funny, I actually came in long a little Nasdaq, and I was nervous before my drive into work this morning because Nasdaq was reversing and almost going negative, and the S&P went red. Okay, S&P went red in the 7 o'clock hour, and now all of that has shifted around in literally an hour of trading, and Nasdaq. But the crazy thing about Nasdaq, and you call it, I'm going to use your word. Is this a reverse rug pull today? Oh, it's a rug pull to the upside. Blah, 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 rug pull. Dude, this is just an average move in the index on a daily basis. The Nasdaq future moves 5 to 700 points a day. That's all you have to know. So that's anywhere from 1.5% to 3% every single day, up or down. Okay. And this is what we're dealing with. And there is no liquidity. It keeps going up and down the channel. The moves, to be honest with you, are epic. I know you don't think this is an epic move, but if you go back 2 years in Qs, this would be a good monthly move in Qs. It's a good monthly move in any index, 2.5%, 3%. You're annualizing at 36% a year. So the video game continues on. Don't look at any clues. There are no clues. The clues come after the fact. They'll make them the reason we move. And, here we sit. I'm hoping the Nasdaq stays up here because I want to get out of my long. I mean, this is a crazy move. Off of yesterday's low what was yesterday's low in Nasdaq futures? I'll bet you we're up 1,000 points.
Okay. 28,900. Let's call it that.
No, it was lower, I believe. But
it was not.
Okay, so we're up 1,000 points, basically, right? That's not a lot.
Basically, 900, but okay.
900 on 29 is basically over 3%. That's from yesterday.
It's a ragdoll, baby. You know it. Well, listen, if you're saying the whole market rests on Micron, Micron is incredibly volatile. You're going to get moves like this. I don't think it ends anytime soon. This is the new market structure.
Okay, dude, and you think that's a bull market? You think the structure that's completely changed when we're moving 2 and 3% a day?
I don't know why you say, do I think so? I think all of this will break eventually, but
Well, what do
until
you
they're
mean?
ready.
We talked a little on the air. What's down today? Guess what? The Dow. Wow, wow, wow. So as long as the Dow wow wow goes down, the Nasdaq can go up. Okay. We don't have three indexes down or up in the same day. And that is a video game. Okay.
I'm
That is
gonna call. I'm gonna
contrived
call.
rigged.
I'm gonna call the Dow wow wow from now on.
It's the Dow wow wow, bro. When the Nasdaq gets bad, the Dow breaks out and makes new highs. Then the Nasdaq gets good and the Dow comes in, and here we sit, dude.
Well, you
Here
talk
we
about
sit.
clues. If you were trading last night, and if you are watching
Oh,
Kospi,
stop. Trading last night was ridiculous. Time out. Time out. Trading last night was ridiculous. The
ridiculously
Nasdaq
good.
opened up 150, then it was down 200 or
Yeah,
150, and then it
it
went
was.
back up and
Yeah.
down and up and down. And the funny thing is, I watched that stupid ETF out of Korea. That thing was down like 18% overnight, and the market wasn't even down.
That's
And then it came
That's
back.
exactly what I want to show here. How this is the first time since this trend began that I saw a real divergence where Kospi's down and the Nasdaq was just chilling, hanging on to yesterday's close. And you talk about clues. That was a clue for me. Just that divergence last night, I think said it all.
I guess. I don't know. Later on, we could have a whole nother trade and be down on the day. And then what are you going to say then? Nas Kospi gave us the clue after we rallied 300 points and then crashed. I mean, no, there is nobody that knows other than maybe Ken and Jane in the back room manipulating, knows where the market's going to be today. Nobody. Nobody. It can close on a dead ass low or it could close on the high. That's the market we're in. Nobody knows. There's nothing on a talent level that you could figure out that's going to give you a clue. Dude, we were watching yesterday Micron. I said it yesterday on the podcast. It was down $50. I said, you know what? 3 ticks and it'll be green. And guess what? On the opening, 3 ticks and it was green. There's no liquidity. There's nothing. You're trading. Listen, the one thing that I know, and I feel very confident about, this is an uninvestable market. This is a trading market, degenerate gambler market, whatever, but this is not an investor market. Okay. This is not an investor market. And I was reading this article last night and it was showing like Nvidia, it's up, in the last year or two, but it's not up anything. And it's 1 minute away from turning down and going negative on these guys. Go across the board on these stocks and they're not really up. So now you're holding for a year or two and you're expecting crazy gains on stocks that have market caps of 5 trillion, 4 trillion, 3. I remember my son is 25 years old. It was 6 years ago when Apple crossed a trillion. The first stock to cost a trillion. A trillion's a joke, dude. We're 5x that. It took the market, hundreds of years to get $1 trillion company. And now SpaceX comes public, your favorite stock, at 1.7 trillion. It's not even 1 trillion. It's like closer to 2 trillion. It's insane. We don't even know what it does. I know it's going to Mars. I know it's sending satellites around the world. You're going to look up like in Austin Powers, and you're just going to see satellites rotating around your house all day. Oh, what is that? A star? Oh, no, it's Elon's satellite with come on, dude. I was reading about these data centers. They're millions and millions of square feet, millions. So I don't know what he's putting up there. But it ain't replacing any of this anytime soon. So now he's selling used GPUs and he's selling, satellite airtime. He'll do whatever, to try to bring in revenue around what he's doing. But overall, listen, all I can say is this is ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. The valuations are ridiculous. Listen, today is, we're trading every day, so we just have to set people right for today's trade. Obviously we have longer term views. Yours is a bullish and mine is bearish.
Mine is.
Longer term, I don't know.
I didn't
You
know
flip
I'm
with the
long term.
price, dude. You flip with the price. Whatever the price is, you'll flip, bro.
Whatever.
Today you like them. Listen, I'll be honest with you.
I just
And
can't believe you're complaining this much. And yesterday you actually called that the Nasdaq would gap up. So I'm very surprised that you're
why? I'm
complaining,
not, dude. I
ranting,
am not.
and
I am
making
not.
stuff up as you
I
go
am up
along.
money. In full disclosure, I'm up money in
What are you
Nasdaq.
complaining about?
I'm complaining that this is a joke. That's what I'm
Okay.
complaining about. I'm complaining about
It's
it's
not
a
a joke. It's just the
Oh my
market.
God,
It's
dude.
just a new
You're not.
market
You
structure.
know what? You're asking me what I'm complaining about. Then I start talking, and you're talking about I don't even know what. You're not even letting me say what is
Yeah, what are you
making
complaining about? Let me know.
that this is a gambling casino where no talent is involved, and looking at any clue, whatever that may be, is a reverse indicator and does not work. And I'm hoping I got 45 minutes, and maybe this podcast will take up, 25 or 30 more minutes of this. Okay. But I am punting the opening so fast, so hard that it's unbelievable. And I'm hoping that the NASDAQ stays up here. I'm just hoping. So, to be honest with you, so listen, I woke up this morning and I was fearful. Not fearful because I wasn't really scared, but I thought I wasn't going to have a profit. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I thought I was not going to have a profit today. Okay, the S&P, the S&P at 745 was negative on the day. Negative. The Nasdaq was up under 100. Okay, now we're up 1%. Like I don't know, and 1% on Qs is 300 points. To you, that's chopped liver. That's nothing. It's a crazy move. I'm just telling you, it's crazy. These moves are crazy. And you said I called it right yesterday. And I'm going to say today that NASDAQ is a 10 star on the opening. They have, NVIDIA has run away from itself. Okay. Micron is absolutely ridiculous. You know what the extended hours volume is? I know there's probably volume outside in dark markets or whatever. These knuckleheads are trading on Robinhood and IB all night, but this is showing on the listed composite 3 million shares. 3 million shares have the stock up 7%. You know how many shares are outstanding? 1,000,000,001. You can't get a 10,000 up market or a 2,000 or 5,000 up market with 1,000,001. Dude, I was a specialist on the floor. My job was to provide orderly and fair markets by providing liquidity. And me providing liquidity made those markets fair and orderly. And you could never move a Micron 70 or 80 or $100 if you had a specialist that was really making a market. Could not. But you have the opposite. These guys call themselves market makers. Okay. They're market takers. Okay. They take your order and they front run it and they run the market up. And Micron is trading 1,009. Now it's trading 1,005 in one tick. And it could be below 1,000 in 1 minute. And that's what I do not like about this tape. I think it's very risky and it's a gambling tool. This is just, you don't think this is just full out gambling? I'm just asking.
I think partially, yeah.
Partially? Dude, the NASDAQ yesterday, touchdown T will attest to it, at 11 o'clock was on the dead ass, okay, yesterday. Dead ass, okay? At 700 on the Q. It's now 720. Hit 700 3 times. That gets you 21. It's up 3% from less than a day ago. What has actually changed for real? What has changed?
In my view, I think the market is looking at this as a technical area to buy. There's still it feels like they still
Wait a
have.
second. They don't think a technical area is 3% lower. We are now 3% higher. I'm talking about where we are right now. Where we are right now, we're up 3% off yesterday's low before the opening, and you think they want to buy it. They think what could you make? You can't make 3. If you make another 3, we're at an all-time high. Yesterday, we were like talking, we're in the beginning of a correction. Now we're going to be at all-time highs in one day.
Look, I agree that, you know, if you're going in long today and right here, you may want to take some profit. I already took mine. I'm not even in the Nasdaq at this point. Off my longs from last night.
Bro, you probably took
I'm looking for. Are you looking for a complete reversal today? Are you looking for a complete reversal today? Like, let's talk about numbers a little bit.
No,
you want to punt it out 10-star short,
Eric. I'm not looking for anything. I feel like when I'm trading, I'm a hockey goalie. Okay, and it's the pregame, and all the skaters are on the ice just blasting shots at the net, and I'm just hoping not to get hit. That's it. I couldn't tell you what is going to happen today. I mean, I'm going to react. I think we've been doing well again on our S&P spread trader product. So we've had like 3 or 4 wins in a row there. So, I'm feeling pretty confident. Today, if we open up 30 or 40, selling up another 30 or 40 or 50 is pretty safe. Okay. But again, you just don't know. These players are crazy. I'm just hoping, now I have 40 minutes that the Nasdaq just sits here. I'm just hoping it stays up here, because I have queues and they don't open until 9:30. And the market's already coming in. I just don't. I don't get it. Like, Micron is priced for perfection at 1,000. What, the correction's over and it goes up 14% in one day? Eric, the thing was 880 yesterday morning. 880. Now it's 1,010. It's up like 12, 13%. What got better? What got so much better than the mantra?
I showed the chart. I'll pull it up again. I think everybody saw.
Dude, I'm not even the chart. Dude, you can't even look at this chart. We discussed it 2 earnings ago. The stock was under 400.
This is what everybody's seeing. And by the way, this is what I saw a lot of.
Okay, and then why can't it go into the gap down to 400?
A lot of posting on X. Everybody was clamoring. The 50-day, the MACD, whatever. This is what they're looking at.
Well, don't you think that's worse? Don't you think? Let me ask you a question. I've traded for my whole life, almost, since I've been 21 years old. Okay. I mean, obviously they didn't have social media. They didn't have degenerate ant armies, trading the same stock, trying to blow people out of business. All these people, FYI, are losing. Okay. And, we're not going to say anything, but, I have guys in my office that are trading on these, I don't even know how this even works. And I think you trade on it, these things where you put up a little money and you get an account. Dude, I know people that run this stuff. They don't even put your trades in because they know you're going to lose. So my question is, everyone loses, correct? Except in the game of never selling. Never selling never loses. I don't know why it never loses, but it never loses. How come that never loses? But if you try to trade right now on these accounts, you could say it straight out. It's almost impossible to make money. So why is it so easy for somebody to watch Palantir disintegrate down to $100, sit there, cry, hold their you-know-what, and then have it go back to 128 and sit and be, what do they say in baseball?
That's not trading.
Hold on.
On one sense, you're saying trading, but that's not trading.
Hold on. Safe. I'm not talking about trading. Trading is impossible. Okay? That's why if it was so possible, wouldn't everybody be making money on these things and wouldn't they be out of business, especially if they're not putting your trades in? Of course, everybody's losing. losing. No one can make money. So why can they make money just buying overvalued stocks, hoping they come back when they go down? Hoping. How is that strategy so good for people that don't even understand what they have, what the risks they have, and all of that? How is that the only thing in the market that is held up? It won't hold up. But how is that the only thing in the market that holds up? And I look at you with your med hat on. I wish you were wearing your 3-star general. You should be clicking and bicking, as we would say, taking money off of these sites because, you're a professional trader. But I'm telling you, can't do it. Eric, I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying you in general.
You.
Okay, I'm talking about the world. Okay, the guys, I have 2 summer interns in here. They're doing it on a daily. They can't take payouts. It's very difficult. So why is it so difficult? And why are these what do you call these platforms? Not first loss, but whatever they are, like where they give you.
So for your interns, I'll say a couple things, and for everybody that trades these prop accounts, predominantly, I would assume that everybody's just looking at the same exact technical levels, which is a losing game at this point because all of that is already programmed in. Ken and Jane, Citadel, countless algo firms, everything that you guys see on a chart, they've already eaten, digested. They know exactly what it is.
What do you mean? They're going the opposite.
Hold up, Larry. So every technical point where you think it's a buy, they'll push it down another 10 or 20 ticks, get you out of the trade, and then it winds up going in your original direction anyway. So you have to plan for that.
But my question, time out. Why are you getting out of the trade if everybody knows that and you know what's going on? The same way listen to me, the buy and hold guys, and I've seen this probably 10 at least times in my career. The buy and hold guys are good until they're not good. Okay. But what you just said doesn't make sense to me. So what I would do, okay.
I think it makes a lot of sense to people actually trading this.
I'm a Syracuse grad, dude. So, I'm extremely educated. Okay. And I would tell you, okay, you just said it. Ken and Jane know the level. They push it to the level. They make people buyers do whatever. And then they take it down a little more and then explode it up. So why are you getting out? That's what I don't understand. Why are you getting out when, it doesn't make any sense?
Because hold up. Because if you're talking about prop accounts, there's a lot of rules set where they can't.
Why would you buy? Can I ask you a question?
They're probably choosing the wrong sizing. B, they're not accounting for the fact that all these technical levels. Yeah, go ahead.
Why would you buy that level? That's what I don't understand. You're saying everyone knows
nothing else to go on. They have nothing else to go on.
What are you talking about? You've just come up with a winning trading strategy. You get to the 50-day. You don't buy at the 50-day. You buy 20 or 15 spook points lower than the 50-day. And then you're in when everyone's getting out.
Exactly.
Okay? So I don't understand. But the reason why I bring it up, to be honest, dude, the reason why I bring it up, okay, is I got a lot of gray hair. Trading is not an easy game. Okay. Investing should be a very difficult game. And I would tell you this, I ran a webinar a couple of weeks ago. 90% of all stocks ever listed are lower than where they're listed. 90%. What is that telling you?
Well, to me, it's telling me there's a little bit of a momentum breakdown. You ask why do people that just sit in stocks always win? This is why. This is a chart of the momentum factor. They're having an easy time over the last 2-3 years.
I'm just letting you know, but the momentum.
And if you ask anybody over the last month and a half whether they made money in retail, if they say yes, it's probably a lie. A lot of prop traders are losing money right now, and that's because momentum has been breaking down. It's not as easy to pick winners right now.
You're going away from the question. Okay. And the question is 90% of stocks are lower. Of the 10% of stocks that are higher, like 2% make up 98% of the gain, or even more than 100. So if you're not in, Micron or Nvidia, but all of these stocks will give up the goat. The market is so insane here. I can't even tell you. Like, listen, I'm, you know, I I just hope the market, is going to hold up. Nasdaq is about 50 off the high. The S&P looks like it wants to go red. The Dow is red. Okay, it kind of makes sense to me, right? So the Dow was a little overbought. It went down 700 or 800 points intraday, closed down like 500, down a little today. Maybe it gets down 1,000, but then you're going to get that dumb rotation back into Dow, out of Nasdaq, out of S&P, back into S&P. This is not, Eric, this isn't trading. This is not trading. That's all I could tell you. This is not trading.
But it is trading. But it is trading because you just laid out what the algo is. It's
why is the algo?
Nasdaq was oversold. Now they're going to go the other way. We've been talking about this all week.
Why is the algo controlling the market? How can the algo control the market? I mean, honestly, how can the algo control the market?
Hey,
listen, me and you know. Time out. Me and you know what's going on. We know what's going on. We know. We talk about the button, the squelch button on your stereo. They turn it up. They're going to turn that button off later. Okay? So yesterday when we were on the pod, and you know this is fact, the Nasdaq was down 85 basis points. The SPY was down 20. I go, you know what? This thing was out 1%. This thing is going to reverse, and Nasdaq is going to outperform by like 1% and change.
Yep. Yep.
So what is that?
That's why I was very surprised when you wanted to short Micron yesterday. I was like, because on one hand, you're like,
why would I did not short Micron yesterday. I would never trade the stock of Micron, just for full disclosure. I trade out of the money options. Or let me rephrase it. On the most important stock in the market, that's a top 10 stock, you can't get an option market. They're not even there. You can't trade an option. They're dollars wide on a dollar option. You can't trade them. And Ken and Jane and those guys are raking in a fortune because the retail public, let's say they're buying the 1,000 calls. The market's 6 bid at 8.5. These guys are paying 8.5, 9, 10, and then they come in the next day, like today, and the stock's up 35, 40, and guess where their option is? Lower. So that's what's happening, and that's why these markets, I am not trading Micron. I have not traded a share of Micron, nor will I ever trade it. I shouldn't say that. Ever is not true. I will trade small shares of Micron. It's untradeable. But I am definitely looking to do, our option strategy spreads on Micron. Okay. But to be honest with you, I can't, because the top 8 stock in the world has no liquidity on any options. Just letting you know. So that's it. Micron could be 100, 1,100, or 1,010, and then it could be 975 in literally, Eric, I'm telling you, less than 2 minutes. Less than 2 minutes. You saw it yesterday. Dude, the stock was down 50 on the podcast. It opened green. You know on how many shares? Like 30,000. 30,000.
What do you think about the straddle today? 35 points, high, low.
No clue. I'm not trading the straddle. I'm gonna pick a wing on one side of the market, go 50 out of the money or 40 out of the money on whatever side I think the market is gonna go the opposite way, and then you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go like this, and I'm gonna pray. Okay, because you don't know what's gonna happen today, dude. I used to have a very good clue on a day-to-day. And listen, we're making money. We're making money for our subscribers. So I just want to be clear on that. I'm just saying I used to come to work with 100% confidence of what I saw and what I thought would work. And I would be 100% confident. Okay. And it wouldn't be if I was going to make money, it's how much. Now I'm doing okay, but I'm a hockey goalie in a pregame workout where they're just firing shots at you. You don't know. The Nasdaq can open here, explode up, explode down, move around. You don't know what's moving. It can move 100 points on air. This is not a market that makes any sense. And then you're going to see like the market move or stocks move. Like yesterday, it was the weirdest thing. Micron moved off of some bogus story, okay, from informant. I don't even know what that is. That, they're selling chips. I don't even know what that even does to their earnings. Not a lot, because they've been supposed to sell chips for a year and a half. Okay. So the stock quietly went up $2.50 in like an instant. And Touchdown T behind me goes, there must be news. We're looking all over. We can't find the news, right? Then the stock comes right back in and is lower than where the news comes out, right? And then the news comes out again where you can see it on the wire, and then it goes right back up $2.50. Okay. So this is what we have. I want to look at the macro picture, which, as you know, makes no sense. Okay. You got bond yields ticking higher. Okay.
Which bond yield? Which bond yield?
The only bond yield that I'm looking at, 10s and 30s. Okay.
Yeah, well, the 2 year is actually ticking down today.
So what? Who cares, dude? That thing can't move more than 10 basis points up or down.
Yeah, but when the market's concerned about a July rate hike, yeah, that's pretty important.
I'm just saying. Okay, so you think that the United States stock market is concerned about a July rate hike? Is that actually what you think is priced in here? How about the pricing?
The stock market is not concerned at all.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. So it doesn't matter. You know when they're going to be concerned?
When they actually raise rates?
No, and then they'll say, don't worry, this is the last time they're going to raise rates.
Lending has to come to an end. That's when they'll care.
No eggs, bro. All right. Dude, whatever. Okay. All good. I don't know. I'm worried about. We got 20. You guys are nursing me on the podcast. I just need this market to open up. Please open.
You mentioned the macro picture. We started mentioning interest rates. Here's what I'm seeing that's pretty interesting. Break-even inflation rates. Top panel is the 2 year. And as soon as April rolled around, this thing started to toboggan down. The market thought Trump would never hit Iran again. Oil dropped. 2 year break even inflation went below the level it was before the war. Down here, you have 10-year break even.
Dude, well, let's ask this question. Okay. Trump was out of his mind yesterday. We supposedly hit them. I just saw one bombing of one thing, which they didn't really hit anything. It looked like sand. Then, again, he stops. And he literally said again yesterday, Iran wants to make a deal so bad. You didn't hear him say that. Iran wants to make a deal so bad. I mean, when is this going to get old? They want to do a deal so bad. Dude, you know what kind of deal they could do? They could walk away with hundreds of billions of dollars from this clown, okay? They could keep their nuclear dust, and they could do whatever they want in the Strait of Hormuz, and Trump would do all of those things to leave. So how do they want a deal so bad? I think they don't want a deal at all. And I think they know they can run the clock out on this clown, and he's not going to do anything. And it's an embarrassment to the United States of America. Embarrassment, an absolute embarrassment. And you know what he's doing? I was watching some footage from the Eisenhower or whatever the big battleship that's in the Gulf. These guys that are on that ship have been on that ship for well over a year. Do you know how stale they have to be? I mean, come on, dude. They've done nothing. They just wake up in the morning today and they do nothing, and then they're like, literally, they go, "Oh, throw over a bomb, pretend," and they do it. They're so stale. I mean, I just think, listen, I think the macro picture, even though, as you know, this is a video game and it doesn't matter, is concerning to me. It's concerning to look at.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is very concerning.
Okay.
I think what the market is trying to price, because here's the yield curve, right, which is ripping. The yield curve is ripping off the lows, but expectations for Fed rate hikes are actually going up. So how could that be the case? That's why I bring up this chart of the break evens. I think when the yield curve starts to steepen, even though rate hike expectations remain high, it's a sign that inflation expectations are rising. And you can see it in the break evens off the lows and going higher. So that is pretty concerning. And that's why I think the yield curve is steepening, because you look at the rate hike expectations, they're still high and actually rising. So
Yeah, and listen, no one cares. You were all hyped up yesterday on the podcast about the minutes of the Fed.
I
Okay.
was. I was hyped up.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying they were meaningless, basically. Which
I'm actually, I got out of all my positions before that because I thought there would be a move. And not that it was a mistake, because you got to trade for the situation, but there was, it would have paid me more
Eric,
to stay in
the
my.
guy. Listen, there's a new sheriff in town, and you saw it yesterday. He didn't comment in those minutes. They were talking about members of the Fed. Some wanted to raise rates. Some said maybe we'll lower them later. It's a clown show. What he wants, okay, is to
Well, the
take
Fed
away.
is divided and confused, and I feel like the Fed is
Fed is
there's a
so
lot of
not
confusion
the
out
Fed.
there.
Time out. I want to be clear on this. The Fed is not divided. The Fed wants to raise rates. 100%.
No, they're pretty
100%.
divided. They're pretty divided.
No, they're not. How could they be divided? How? Who's seeing that they
Half of
shouldn't
the
raise
Fed
rates?
doesn't want to raise rates, and half
Why?
does.
Why?
Pretty
No, I
divided.
don't think it's half. I don't think it's half.
Okay.
I think it's 80% want to raise, maybe even more. The only reason why, Eric, you're shaking your head. The only
80%, dude. That's like the
Eric,
entire Fed.
Eric, rates would have gone up 6 months ago or more if Powell wasn't tied up in a freaking noose, okay? With Trump berating him, threatening to freaking put him in jail, this and that. They would have raised rates a year ago. They needed to make this move a year ago. Inflation is out of control, okay? And it's still out of control. And the Fed members know that. And what he's doing right now, and it's impressive in my mind because he's only been there 2 months. He's taken the Fed put out of the market. The Fed is not protecting this market anymore. Not protecting it. So when we go down, okay, we're going to have to go down into what you would think is a crash, literal crash, for the Fed to put, I'm going to use the word, tools in his tool chest in place. This guy doesn't have tools. He's not using tools. I mean, come on. Dude, this Fed has been a joke and has messed up the economy so many times now that it's unbelievable. The name Too Late Pal is perfect. He's been too late on every move. He never makes a move. This guy is going to be too early. Okay? He's going to be too early. And that's why what makes no sense to me is that they're pricing in, what would you say, 35 or more? What's the rate for July? It's got to be 35 or more. You don't say it's on the table. That's a 50-50. Okay, and I think it's more. I think he's going to do it.
30% odds for July. Yeah, it's a live meeting. It's definitely a live meeting.
Every meeting going forward is a live meeting. There's
correct.
not going to be a dead meeting going forward for the next X amount of years. They're all live. They're all live, and he's going to make moves outside the box to take care of what he needs to take care of. And what he needs to take care of is he needs to slow this maniac economy down, Okay. And I don't know if that maniac economy is really true, but when I say maniac economy, I mean stock market. Okay. Dude, the stock market hasn't been put on earth risk free to give you a double digit return every year. It hasn't been put on this earth to do that. Okay. But that's what's happened because the Fed is asleep at the switch. Okay. Or was asleep at the switch. They're asleep at the switch. You don't think they're asleep at the switch?
I think they're economists, ivory tower
They're
style.
not anymore. They're not anymore.
I think they follow lagging data. They just follow the CPI,
Eric,
and the
the guy
CPI.
running the Fed is a trader that sat next to Stanley Druckenmiller for the X amount of years. Okay. He understands markets. Okay. He
And
knows,
he
like,
understands data. That's why he's doing a commission to investigate their
dude,
data.
he's got commissions for everything. And that I don't even understand. He doesn't need a commission. Okay. He knows. Okay. He knows. He's not stupid. Okay. But he knows the Fed is way behind the curve. Listen, why would there be a July rate hike even on the table? I'm not saying they're going to do it. He's crazy enough to do it, which would be impressive. You know, I think he could do it. Okay. But come on, let's take him out of let's say they put in, Joe Smith. The odds of a hike right now would be zero. Zero. Because the Fed doesn't move like that, dude. The Fed waits and overweights and waits, like you just said, for more data to make sure everything is okay. Is the market okay? We're going to hold your hand. What's the market going to do? We got to worry about the stock market. Dude, could you imagine for 1 minute if it's 2026 that in 2040, okay, 14 years, let's just use that, 2040, the S&P is lower. In 2040, the S&P is lower than it is today. What do you think will happen?
De-dollarization.
De-dollarization, everyone will be dead ass. Dude, that happened in Japan for 50 years. 50 years. This market, and I think the Fed is concerned about this, is basically handing people free money on a daily basis. And we talked a little bit on the podcast earlier about no one will sell. No one will sell anything. So, I really want to get a little bit more granular, today, just looking at different stuff. The 10-year came off a little, doing a little better today. Got up to a high yield of like 460 yesterday, hit it again today. I expect that yield to go higher, like I said before. Keep an eye on global yields. Those things are even crazier than us. The Bund is almost at 310. The Japanese is the crazy one. It's at 240 on the JGBs. Oil sits. Why is oil back here if there's nothing going on? Why is oil back to $74? Traded 67. Why is it here? Because we hit them? Dude, we've done. You want to talk about the same.
It was already bottoming. It was already bottoming out before we hit them.
Eric, but they do the same thing every time. Do you know what happens? Iran blows up a ship or hits a ship, and then we fake bomb them. And then they blow up another ship and we fake bomb them. Okay. And then in a week, they'll blow up another ship and we'll fake bomb them. Let me ask you an important question. Do you think they're going to let people pass through the Strait of Hormuz without having to pay them?
I think that's something Iran wants to fight for. I think that's something that they will fight for. They want
Right.
that.
They're not doing any deal unless they can charge for cargo going through the Strait. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Is the ceasefire over or Trump's going to say later the ceasefire's back on? I mean, come on, dude. This is crazy. The whole thing is crazy. We let them have a
something more interesting than oil is the refined products, the margins. That crack spread that I showed you, I could pull up that chart again. But we made another all-time high in the crack spread. Marathon Petroleum, which I've been recommending, exploded yesterday. It's pulled back today. I think that might be a buyable dip in Marathon, in Phillips 66. I like those plays.
All right. I mean, I haven't really looked at it. We basically bought a put in oil yesterday. We were, we're still better price located. We had a decent gain on our gold, but we gave that back, but we're sitting in it. I think that higher rates are coming.
Gold
I'm
is weird right
hoping.
now. Gold is weird. Like one day it's reacting to higher rates, the next day it's reacting to higher inflation expectations. So,
But you just said it, and we're going to get close to wrapping because we're at 9:20, and I want to thank everybody for joining me today and holding my hand in the Nasdaq opening. So hopefully, it holds up here, and we can,
don't be
solidify.
don't be nervous, Larry. I think it'll hold up for a few more minutes for you.
Who knows, dude? You don't know. yesterday, literally, the Nasdaq was down 200, and then it was down 500 in literally 3 minutes. So 180 points is not a lot, dude. They could wipe that out in 30 seconds. I'm just letting you know. So hopefully it holds up. It's not looking as good as it was a couple minutes ago, but I'll take 250 Nasdaq points anytime, any day.
Now, if we completely reverse today, which I don't think we will, then that would be a rug pull, right, Larry?
All right, bro. Listen, I really thought we were going to get past this. Dude, I'm going to actually. Hey, Thomas, can you get the shrink on the phone? I mean, why is it a rug pull? I don't even understand. A rug pull in pure definition means that
Dude,
they pull.
I'm just kidding.
Dude,
The chat is
I
playing
know,
bingo.
but I'm
The
saying
chat is
a
playing
rug.
bingo.
I just want people to
I want to know if
understand.
we're going to say rug pull. I had to throw that out before the podcast is over.
Dude, I'm just saying a rug pull in its full definition is pulling out the rug and not having you have the ability to buy or sell. Okay? There hasn't been one rug pull. Every one of these moves you could get out. I'll be able to get out on the opening, hopefully. It's coming in a little more, but I'll be able to get out on the opening. Okay? I don't like the action. I listen, I saw it yesterday, where this spread was narrowing. I just don't understand how you have a market that you consider good, that one index will always be up and one index will always be down. What is that? We never had that in the annals of trading. That's some 25-year-old kid that programmed the computer to do this. So that's what we're going up against, the computer. So, we got to hope they pull the plug on this computer and they run in the back room. Like when I was at Spear Leads, we had a customer that went rogue and he was hitting buttons, and I had to literally go into his office. This is a true story, and pull the printer plug so he couldn't trade. I literally went under his desk and pulled out the plug. That was the only way to stop this guy. Okay, this was pre these maniac algorithms, but all we're trading is an algo. You know it, and I know it. Am I wrong?
For now, absolutely right. For now.
And that is a gross mutation of a joke.
But that will change. That will definitely change.
When? It's actually getting worse.
Could change July 29th, the Fed meeting. It's a live one, right? Could change that day.
But why? Let me ask you a question. You're long a portfolio. You have to admit rising rates are probably not good for technology. Okay, they got to borrow money to build these data centers and this and that, right? That was the trade in 2023, 2024 that freaked everyone out. Okay, now rates are so much higher and borrowing costs are so much worse. What happened to all the BDCs and all these credit funds that had to stop redemptions? They're fine. Everything's fine. Dude, everything's
nobody's
fine.
talking about them because Microsoft went back up.
Dude, they still can't get liquidity. So, and we're in the biggest bull market ever, and the market's up 20% in Nasdaq, 10% in S&P, and whatever. And they brought one IPO or two this year. Finally, after 5 years, and it's back shut down. What? OpenAI, dude. You know when that's going public? No time soon. no time. And the funny thing is, other than Elon, which really surprised me, because I never thought that SpaceX would go public. And the reason why is, does Elon really even need the money? Like, why did he bring it public? Why does he want to have the scrutiny like he has in Tesla and Twitter? Like, why? He must be so greedy that it's unbelievable, because he has enough money. He could fund this company privately for the rest of time. So he just saw a window of opportunity, punted it out to the public. And in a year or two from today, the public's going to be holding the bag. It's a $2 trillion company. I mean, how could SpaceX be a top 10 stock in the world? Just tell me how. Just tell me how.
There's a bit of hype.
Maybe if they're lucky, they'll do 25 billion in revenue by selling used servers and whatever else they come up with. They got no revenue. I don't get it.
August 17th is earnings, and insiders are able to sell after that first earnings report.
No, I think some guys were able to sell off of some kind of stipulation of price movement off the opening, whatever. Anyway, we're close to the opening. I got to get off. 6 minutes to go. Again, I mean, why don't you, since you're seeing this thing pretty clearly, why don't you tell us what's going to happen today? So we could talk about it tomorrow.
I mean, we got 6 minutes, but we'll go into it. Here's my chart on ES. So my view is we're right back to the point of control we've been at. That's been established over the last few weeks. We're right there. Into earnings, I think we'll be up and down this level here at 75.45. Yesterday, I called these green lines, these moving averages, that we'd be up and down that. We were. I think that's support today. Only thing I'm looking at is the 74.60 puts today seem a little bit bid. But I kind of like the 74.60 put area, which would mean support right here. So maybe wait for a little pullback. If you want to do something like
74.60s off the futures?
No, off the cash. 74.60 put spread off the cash.
Well, when you say it's bid, what's the price? I mean, we're trading it like implied it's at
it was around 7. I'm not sure where it is now, but it was. You look at 35 points up.
What?
On the calls, they're significant.
What was the last trade? Jesus Christ. Yeah, I'm trying to get a price, but
they're closed right now until 9:30.
No, I know, but I was looking at the last sale, or trying to.
Last sale, it's 580. So
okay,
but that's the level I'm looking at, as I think this is going to be a support today. I don't think the market is going to come all the way back down.
Bro, listen, we're going to get off because there's 4 minutes, but for you to say that is beyond disrespect. Dude, the market was 60 spook points lower than that yesterday. Okay, so what if it gets there? What's stopping it? You'll be selling because you got to hedge your put position. So good luck, everyone. Again, hopefully we get some good trading today. Keep an eye on that Nasdaq, S&P, Dow nonsense, and when they unroll that, which at some point they will, then you could probably hit some Nasdaq. But I wish everyone good luck today. Peace and joy. Have a great trading day.